Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Blue Tron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing, and boy howdy am I excited to share with you another interesting deck. See, this time we're playing Zoo, splashing it— what? yeah, okay. No, really? Oh fuck, what's on it? Oh, shit. Alright, be back in a second. Hey everyone, Joseph Rothschild here, aka Mono Blue Tron, back again with another episode of 10-Minute Testing. So, I guess we have the new list, huh? Which, if you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure it was written by Totally Awesome and edited by the Terratop Boys. For those who haven't, I'll run through it real quickly. Kieran, Tyrant Neptune, and Vanity's Emptiness are banned. Maxi, Rescue Cat, Brionac, Brain Control, Future Fusion, and Imperial Order are all limited. Brain Control, Future Fusion, and Imperial Order all have errata as well. Wisdom Eye and Kaiju Slumber are semied, and errated Sangan is back at 3. And there's one other— what am I— oh, yeah, Ratpier is semied, but who cares about that? Anyway, I'm going to do what I always do on the first day of a new format, and play Domain Monarch. So here's the deck. Now, we're playing very little of the new stuff, and I recognize how bad it probably is to be playing a deck that literally cannot beat Imperial Order the day after it gets unbanned, but that's what we're playing, and I guess I would ask you to deal with it. Today, I'm giving you a little overview of the archetype, followed by a discussion of why I'm excited to jam this, and of course, the card by card. So, first, Domain Monarch is a deck wholly unconcerned with the concept of fun, which is why it's my #1 choice on the first day of every new format. From the structure decks of 2015 comes Erebus and Aether, a power couple so devastating that one of them had to spend a few weeks with her mother on the limited list while they figured out their relationship. These two powerhouses enabled easy grave setups that allowed players to special summon tribute fodder from their graveyards with Prime, search for cards from their deck with Pantheism, and near the end of their reign, destroy set cards with Frostblast. Their namesake card, Domain of the True Monarchs, locks your opponent out of the extra deck as long as you have a tribute summon monster on your side of the field, which, I mean, of course you always do. And historically, they've had a little trouble with bricking, a fact that was exacerbated by the limits of Pantheism and Stormforth, and after Aether was similarly limited, they had to invite others into the relationship, like Thestalos and Caius, just to make sure you'd always have monarchs to summon. However, with a new card called Foolish Burial Goods doing its best Pantheism impression, and an old card called Brain Control doing its best Stormforth impression, maybe we can breathe life back into this dying relationship after all. So, on to the card by card. First, we have 3 copies of Erebus, the Underworld Monarch, the Big Daddy himself. He shuffles a card from the field or hand into the deck, and hilariously, he does not target. Next, we have 3 Thestalos, the Relationship Counselor, who I kind of hate, but I do want to draw. He takes a card out of your opponent's hand, you get to pick, and if it's a monster, it burns them. Hands with Erebus, 1-for-1, and Thestalos can actually start your opponent at 3 in hand, which is just amazing, despite the fact that he also helps set up lethals. Speaking of, next is Mega Caius, who can banish a bunch of cards, good for mass removal when you have a 2-for-1, and hilariously burns as well. 1 copy of Aether because she is just the best. She can special summon a monarch from deck, including Kuraz, but be careful with your chains or he'll miss timing. Next are the vassals. 1 Mithra, 3 Adia, 3 Adios. I like 1 Mithra because routinely I would open bricks if I wasn't playing her, and she's actually quite good. Lets you tribute twice in 1 turn if she's tributed. Adios, of course, gives you another tribute summon, and Adia summons Adios and adds banished cards back to your hand. Finally, the literal red-headed stepchild, a 1 of Majesty's Fiend, findable off return, good against a lot of decks, and 1 of Maxi, now that we are forced to only play 1 of you. On to the spells. We have 1 copy of 1-for-1, 1 Raigeki, 1 Pantheism, 1 Rhoda, 1 Upstart, 1 Foolish, 1 Brain Control, and 2 Goods, which are our non-monarch spells. They see more, they search more, etc. Raigeki, of course, good for clearing the board. 1-for-1, good for finding our Adia. Pantheism, good for unbricking ourselves. Rhoda, also good for finding our Adia. Upstart, good because we only have 39 playables. Foolish, good to send a copy of Erebus to give us a monarch in our hand, or a copy of Adios if we end up screwing ourselves with Mithra or something. Brain Control pretending to be Stormforth, and Foolish Burial Goods pretending to be Pantheism, usually sending that card or Prime Monarch to the graveyard. Our Monarch spells and traps are 3 copies of Tenacity, 3 copies of Return, 3 copies of Domain, 1 copy of Stormforth, and 1 March. Finally, we round out the deck with 2 Prime and a hole in our heart where Vanities used to be. So, with that, let's jump into the games. Now, I'm going to warn you, these games aren't pretty. YGO Pro is having some sort of connection issue, so we are jumping on perfectly legal and definitely stable dueling simulator schmoolingschmook.com. Please do not sue me, Konami or Stevens. We are playing against a friend of mine just to try the new format, so don't be concerned that you see the same name 3 times in a row, and we're communicating over Skype, so concessions will occur often and often without warning. Let's jump in regardless. So our first matchup is up against 60 card Paleo. We are going first, which is basically all we can ask for. This is a deck I expect to be probably the best in the upcoming format. We have not bricked, which is uncharacteristic of Monarch. We're going to use this Tenacity of the Monarchs to add a Pantheism to our hand and discard this Prime like it's 2015 all over again. We sack into a copy of Reinforcement of the Army, which means we can get the Adia engine online as well. We'll shortcut a little to add this Domain to our hand by banishing Pantheism for 3 copies of Domain. And then we're going to normal summon Adia to special summon Adios, activate Domain, sack them both for Erebus, and we are off to the races. Adia's second effect is going to get us Pantheism back to the hand. We're going to send the 2 lowest impact cards from our deck to the graveyard. At this point, I figure it is a Return of the Monarchs and a Domain, though possibly a Prime Monarch would be slightly better. Shuffle this middle card back into our opponent's deck. So we'll end our turn here. I'm feeling pretty good. We have another Monarch in hand, so Return can get online and we can start chaining Monarchs together. He activates, ooh boy, Grass is Greener, and oh, I mean, I'll just skip through this. 28 cards, my god. Thankfully, he doesn't actually mill very many good things. There's, what, a Ronin Totem? But that's about it. As well as 2 copies of Fiend Griefing. He's playing a Backjack package alongside, Fiend Griefings, of course. It's interesting, but I don't know how good it is. He revealed to me after the game that one of these set cards was, in fact, Fiend Griefing. Because of this, he doesn't actually have a lot that's live. I'm going to bait out Solemns real quick. Special summon this Adia by banishing this Adios. The classic Monarch play, the never-ending chain of squires that made it so infamous. He says, okay, so we're going to go ahead and get a Adios to defense position, then sacrifice our own Erebus in order to normal summon this Kuraz, the Light Monarch. So I'm feeling okay about this Kuraz. I think I'm going to blow itself up along with one of his traps. I usually don't like using it to blind MST, but in this specific scenario, I probably want to be able to negate the amount of level 2 monsters he's able to summon pretty quickly, and I figure this is a pretty choice Solemn Warning target as well, so if he has it or a strike, I'd like to see it now. He does not activate it and lets this Leon Colia go to the graveyard. I draw into a Tenacity, so I'm like, okay, sending this Pantheism and adding the Erebus lets me do the bluff, where I call 2 copies of Return and 1 copy of Tenacity, and he gets me a copy of Return. He is going to do that, which is excellent, and immediately afterwards we're going to use the Tenacity in our hand to get a March of the Monarchs. That is a card that I believe is unbeatable for him at this point with the cards that he has set, and as soon as we activate it, he's going to go ahead and concede. Our second game, we're playing against Zodiac, and hilariously, he's bricked. I didn't know this deck could do that. We have opened Majesty's Fiend, which is just about the best card in the history of time. I toy with the idea of sending Maxi off of this 1-for-1, and I think incorrectly decide against it and to go for Thestalos. We're going to special summon this Adia and this Adios. I think about just doing Adia, but figure it's probably too good to have the availability of the Squire chain. So let's go ahead and sacrifice the Adios for the Majesty's Fiend and tack in and end our turn. He has, of course, the Cosmic Cyclone set, and unfortunately has not really unbricked himself. He does have, of course, a copy of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, as Zodiac players are always wont to do, but after destroying this March of the Monarchs, I am completely open to that board wipe. However, from this position, he can't particularly win. We draw a sweet card off of this Maxi, an Erebus, I believe, which cements our victory. I reveal to him that I'll be able to shuffle the Kaiju that he gets, plus deal 2,800 damage to his life points, and I figure I can probably finagle an extra 1,000 somewhere along the line as well. He decides it's probably not worth it, and before conceding decides to bluff 1 card face down, which I immediately call him out as a Zodiac combo. So for our third matchup, we are unfortunately going second against a pet deck of this particular duelist, the 50-card special Metalfoes Demise. We've actually had a lot of positive results testing this. The idea is, like Demise, you have more slots available for a high monster count, so you don't have to, like, play exclusively traps and wait a turn before activating Demise. He's going to go ahead and activate this painful choice, painful decision, whatever the least busted one is, in order to get himself a Metalfoes Stealerin. Like, God, I can't keep these guys' names separated. we've opened kind of bricky, but thankfully this Pantheism will probably find us a way out of it. We draw into our other copy of the Prime Monarch, and I'm like, this is why I'm playing two. Whatever, we do draw into a large Monarch, but unfortunately it's not a setup one. So I'm thinking, well, I don't want to get this Adios struck, so let's get a Tenacity, send that for fodder for the Prime Monarch, and then get a Domain. This means we don't have to ever activate an effect this turn, and it's not even particularly good to do so because he doesn't have any cards in his hand. We do have protection in the form of March of the Monarchs, but we're all in on this individual monster, and I say, show me the Quaking Mirror Force, and I will happily concede because I don't think there's any beating that card. And hilariously, he does in fact have it, so we're going to concede. So we're back with the deck. I'll start this off by letting you know I'm completely biased and will justify Monarchs no matter the format or how good it is. Having said that, I feel like it is quite good, this format. It's less bricky than it has been since the limits occurred. Having said that, it does routinely brick. I wish there were better ways to bolster consistency, but even adding more Monarchs doesn't actually do anything, since routinely the important part of Erebus and Aether is that they send cards from your deck to the graveyard, not that they have on-hit effects that are nuts. Opening hands with Return becomes much more necessary, especially when we draw into like a Thestalos and not a second card, and unfortunately we can't guarantee that happens every game. However, the raw power of Monarchs still exists. The non-targeting shuffling, the explosive turns with Aether, I mean, whew, it still feels quite good. I'll probably do my best to try and make this work, but ultimately it may not be able to cut it against a field of almost exclusively Paleos. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed this video that I hodgepodged together after the list was revealed at about 11 a.m. this morning. If you want to see the decks that I play on this show on stream, I am on twitch.tv/monobluetron every Monday and Wednesday from 9:30 a.m. to noon Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who are longtime viewers, you may have noticed I have not been on there in about a month. That is because my computer is a piece of shit, and right now it is with HP, returning to me within the next 2 days, so I'm very excited to once again start streaming, interacting with you, and basically losing a lot on Checkmate Ladder in general. If you have a certain deck or archetype you want to see me play on a future episode of this show, feel free to let me know in the comment section below, and I will see what I can do for you. Otherwise, I'll see you Thursday.